All right, breaking news right now. Former President Trump taking it to Truth Social after the fourth indictment handed down, this one in Fulton County, Georgia, something that happened about 2.5 years ago, coming to fruition late last night. He goes on here in a very lengthy Truth post, but essentially saying this. He will be presented, he will present a major news conference at 11 a.m. on Monday, so that's next week, in Bedminster, New Jersey. Based on the results of this conclusive report, all charges should be dropped against me. Again, an announcement there. He's responding to the fourth indictment, 11 a.m. On Monday, August 21st.
Sean was alluding to these charges accuse the president and allies of trying to overturn the 2020 presidential election results, specifically in the state of Georgia. With us now in studio, General Counsel of the Save America PAC, Alina Habba. Alina, welcome, and thank you very much for coming on. There's sort of a deadline already. Next Friday, when the president must appear along with all those other co-defendants. Talk to me about the president's schedule, and is this realistic if we could see a trial within the next 6 months?
So the first with the schedule, obviously he'll appear. He's done that now 3 times because it's evidently indictment season. But he'll appear before Friday as he's supposed to. There's no reason we wouldn't cooperate. We always cooperate. As to the trial in 6 months, you know, I watched her say that she's going to try 19 defendants in 6 months in Georgia, where they're backed up right now, actually. And they're hearing other RICO cases that are in month 8 that are not nearly as complex and don't have that many defendants. So I'd love to see how that's going to happen. I think that everybody has to understand when you bring something of this magnitude, when you bring these many defendants, you're now going to have 19 different counsel, 19 different requests for discovery, 19 different people you have to fight motions against. It's, you know, even if they try and consolidate in a motion, it's heavy motion practice. It's not easy in terms of, you know, for any of my civil litigation. Now, for criminal litigation, you can imagine, you know, everybody is looking out for themselves, and it's complex. And what she said just didn't even make sense. It's unrealistic. She said a lot of things that didn't make sense.
In terms of something we alluded to at the beginning of this broadcast, where an indictment was announced earlier in the day by someone within the office of the district attorney in Fulton County, then it was denounced, and then it was announced legitimately around 10 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah.
Is that typical?
You know the answer to that. That is not typical. I clerked for a judge. I can also tell you that what's not typical is that there's photo shoots for prosecutors and that there's cameras behind the scenes. This is supposed to be a very closed-doored process. Any defendant of an indictment should have the courtesy of knowing that he's being indicted prior to the press. But as you saw, this was a show, and that's what this is all about. It's a show. Fannie's campaigning, obviously, and looking out for her own interests and making comments like, I don't know how it works with the clerk. Well, I can tell you what she does know. At the end of the day, if you have an indictment, you have to sign that indictment. You have to have your team hand it to the clerk. And those counts were the same counts that were brought up later, even though the grand jury hadn't voted yet. So how do you have that uploaded in the court system, but then rush in all the witnesses so that you can hurry up and look like it was done on purpose, and then get up in front of everybody in the world and say, I don't know how it works. I'm not going to speak to the clerk's office. Well, I know that you had to sign the indictment, and it was available without due process prior to a vote by the grand jury. That's not right. So we have to look into that, and that was a fatal error, in my opinion.
Another difference about this case is the fact that it's in the Fulton County Courthouse, and court proceedings there can be televised. So the viewing public would be able to look inside the courtroom. Also differences, perhaps a mugshot of the former president. If that were to, again, progress to that state, would he be willing to sit for a mugshot?
I think the president's always cooperated, but it's really not his call. Quite honestly, the Secret Service protects the president. He is a former president. This is unprecedented, so we've never dealt with this. And them saying something like, we need a mugshot. What's the purpose of a mugshot? The mugshot is so that you know what somebody looks like in case they're a flight risk. The man is supervised by Secret Service, can't drive a car because he was a former president. Presidents aren't even allowed to drive. Where's he going and who isn't recognizing him? It is a sole power play, ridiculous thing by state level officials that are just trying to have their moment in the press. And I'm really not impressed by what I've seen. I think it's despicable.
Really quickly, I know we have to go. Can this move? I know that there was a motion to move this from a state court to a federal court.
Yes.
That was denied. But now this indictment has been handed down.
Right.
Could this potentially be moved to a federal court?
It should be moved to a federal court. Election claims and claims of somebody who was a president at the time should be viewed by a federal court. You know, there's presidential immunities at play here, and this has no business being in a state court.
All right. Again, that August 25th deadline for a court appearance, and then also news of the August 21st press conference at Bedminster by the former president. So we'll be watching for that. Alina Habba, thank you very much.
Thank you.